समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
In a big development, HAL is out of the AMCA prototype development plan. Hindustan Aeronautics Limited's exit from the rupees 15,000 crore AMCA prototype program is not just a procurement outcome, it's a deliberate policy signal. For the first time since independence, India's most ambitious fighter aircraft project is set to be led not by a defense PSU but by a private Indian prime contractor. On paper, HAL's disqualification is procedural, driven by financial eligibility norms such as the revenue to order book ratio. In reality, it reflects a deeper strategic rethink within the defense establishment about capacity, risk concentration, and timelines. HAL remains the country's only company with end-to-end fighter aircraft manufacturing experience. Yet, that very same dominance has become its weakness. The company is simultaneously executing Tejas Mark 1A deliveries, preparing for the Tejas Mark 2, supporting the Su-30 AMCA upgrades, and managing multiple engines and helicopter programs, not to forget the trainers, deliveries of which are also delayed. Delays in the Tejas Mark 1A delivery schedule have already raised red flags within the Indian Air Force and the government. Against this backdrop, assigning HAL the AMCA, a clean sheet fifth generation aircraft involving stealth shaping, advanced material, sensor fusion, and new manufacturing processes would have further concentrated risk in a single entity. The AMCA timeline is unforgiving. 5 prototypes by 2031 and series production from 2035 leaves little margin for slippages. The decision to exclude HAL is therefore less about capability and more about risk dispersion and institutional bandwidth. What makes the decision unprecedented is not the private sector participation that has existed over the years, but private sector leadership. If Tata, Bharat Forge, or L&T emerges as the winner, India will effectively have two parallel fighter aircraft manufacturing ecosystems, that is, the HAL-led program anchored around Tejas and its derivatives, and then a private sector line focused on AMCA. This is a structural break from the past where HAL was a sole systems integrator and private firms functioned largely as a tier 1 or a tier 2 supplier. The logic is clear. Future fighter programs cannot afford serialization and monopoly-induced delays. Parallel assembly lines increase resilience, speed, and bargaining power, especially as India looks at sixth generation concepts and lower wingman platforms in the 2030s. The ones who are in competition now to back the project are the Tata Group, a sole bidder, followed by a consortium led by Bharat Forge Limited, a part of the Kalyani Group with defense public sector undertaking, BML, and private sector defense electronics firm Data Patterns India Limited. Another consortium led by private firm L&T with DPSU Bharat Electronics Limited and private firm Dynamatic Technologies is also in the race. While none of the contenders have built a fighter aircraft before, their strength lies elsewhere. Among the companies in the fray, only Tata has the experience of setting up final assembly line, which they have done for the C295 transport aircraft in partnership with Airbus. Other firms, including Tata, have experience of making components, wings, and fuselages for various foreign original manufacturers, besides, of course, for the Tejas program. Crucially, the AMCA prototype phase is not about mass production. It is about industrial learning, tooling, stealth-compatible manufacturing processes, and close collaboration with ADA, that is, the Aeronautical Development Agency of the DRDO. In that sense, the technological risk remains with DRDO while the industrial risk is transferred to the private sector. Sources have said that there is minimal technical differences between the three, and eventually it is going to be a L1 criteria. The reliance on the L1 underlines the government's confidence that the design authority, ADA, will tightly control configuration and standards. However, this also introduces risk. Fifth generation fighters are not linear engineering projects. Cost overruns, redesigns, and test failures are intrinsic to the process. A private prime operating on thin margins may struggle if contracts flexibility is limited. The success of this model would depend heavily on how risk sharing, milestone payments, and design changes are handled contractually. For the Indian Air Force, the decision is both reassuring and unsettling. Reassuring because it reduces dependence on a single manufacturer and increases the odds of meeting the 2035 induction timeline. Unsettling because it places a critical capability in the hands of an industrial ecosystem still learning to integrate combat aircraft at the highest level. Yet the alternative, that is waiting for HAL to free up capacity, would have almost certainly pushed AMCA timelines further right, worsening the IAF's fighter squadron shortfall. The AMCA decision signals that India is finally attempting what every major aerospace power has done: separate design authority from industrial monopoly. If it works, India will have not just a fifth generation fighter, but a competitive airspace industrial base capable of absorbing future technologies. If it fails, the cost, financial, operation, and strategic will be high. Either way, the AMCA without HAL marks the most consequential shift in India's combat aviation policy since the Tejas program was conceived. For The Print, this is Snehesh Alex Philip. Do subscribe to The Print's YouTube channel for more such videos.